T. French Fuqua, CEO of New Frontiers, Incorporated, washed his hands and studied himself in the full-length mirror. Today he'd worn a charcoal three-piece suit to the office. The coat was hanging in the closet, allowing Frenchie to examine his appearance. Vest over white shirt, striped tie, medium-weight wool trousers, European styling. His hair had turned silver gray, and there was a pronounced widow's peak in front, harbinger of eventual baldness. No surprise, his father had been almost totally bald by age 60. Frenchie sighed. He was pushing 60 himself, and the job's stress had changed him. He was a man of medium height, no longer slender, and his new wrinkles reflected the job stress. Had he gained another couple of pounds? Frenchie resolved to cut back on food and find more time for exercise. But time was always in short supply. Too many of the world's most powerful insisted on speaking directly to NFI's boss. The office reflected his status. Deep pile carpeted, original paintings by local artists, comfortable, overstuffed chairs arranged to encourage informal conversation, an oversized antique desk and office chair. The receptionist and secretary in the outer office subtly emphasized the importance of the company. Occasionally, he found himself wondering what impulse had caused him to speak to Morty Sneed. He hadn't needed the money. His net worth at the time had been north of $1 billion, but something about Morty's story had piqued his interest. Perhaps it was the challenge, a chance to show up Saul Goldman. Maybe it had been the lure of the gamble, of the enormous payoff if he succeeded. Or maybe it was the chance to prove that he was as much a businessman as any of the others he knew. Well, he'd done that in spades. The impulse had cost him. His fortune had begun to melt away. His investments tied up in one struggling company. He'd set up an annuity for his daughter, Lena, enough to care for her and the children she would likely bear, but he'd risked everything else. Frenchie had come perilously close to bankruptcy. American financial institutions had refused to extend the company credit. Then had come the fortuitous event that turned things around. DARPA was interested in Morty's discovery. Money trickled in, and soon he'd found that Asian and European banks were more willing than American banks had been. An initial visit to Deutsche Bank had led to a demonstration, where the bank representative had flown in the modified impeller-powered airplane. DB had cautiously agreed to a loan, and other lenders had followed. The video showing operating lifters had captured their interest, and revealing that NFI had an operating spacecraft was the icing on the cake. Banks would have preferred direct participation, but they had settled for loaning NFI the funds the company needed to expand. Frenchie sat down behind the desk, then picked up one of the seemingly endless reports from the waiting stack. The antique desk was huge, but even so, it was always cluttered. He needed to delegate more. That was clear. If only he could find able, trustworthy people. Adelheid Lechsonen, Frenchie's executive secretary, interrupted his musings with a call. She was a trim woman of a certain age, gray-haired, but with fewer wrinkles than Frenchie. Perhaps it was the Finnish lifestyle. People exercised more, so comparatively few residents of Rovaniemi were overweight. They also enjoyed an efficient government, a successful economy, and a social safety net. Adelheid's few wrinkles were at the corner of her eyes, indicating she smiled often.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.